Episode 418. Watching the pro player fight while jumping, this guy got an idea. Can't just be the butt of the joke, gotta drag a few others down with me, right? As it happened, this spectator was a sharpshooter, a long-range attacker. After leaping a few more floors and feeling uncertain, he stopped. Instead, he immediately drew his gun and fired at the three figures above. The three of them had been focused entirely on their own platforms. Chen Guo and Tang Ru would never, of course, attack each other. As for the other guy, seeing how high the pro player was jumping, he figured there was no point in them fighting each other down here. One wrong move, and he'd have to start all over again from the bottom. So, he didn't have a single thought of causing trouble, focusing solely on continuing his jumps. The three of them had no such intentions, but the guy down below, having already lost all face, decided to go down swinging and drag a few others down with him. The moment the gunfire erupted, Chen Guo and the other two were immediately thrown into a panic. Compared to pros like Su Mu Cheng, their jumping skills were downright clumsy. Even with no one shooting at them, they were hopping around nervously. With bullets flying and jumps to make, the situation turned perilous in an instant. With a sharp click, the spectator wasn't satisfied with just ordinary shooting. He unleashed a sharpshooter skill used by Zhou Zikai in the previous match, Barrett Sniper. The bullet was chambered, followed by a loud bang. The shot was aimed at Chen Guo's Chasing Haze. With all her years of gaming experience, how could Chen Guo not know the devastating power of a Barrett sniper rifle? With a shot like that, even with Chen Guo's skill, she couldn't instantly tell if the bullet was on target. She had no choice but to dodge. But there was no space on this tiny pedal. The only way to dodge was to leap to the other one. A Barrett sniper rifle doesn't give you that kind of time to think. Chen Guo had barely seen the muzzle flash before she was leaping for the nearest platform in a desperate scramble. The bullets whistled past, but they missed Chasing Haze. But this hasty jump didn't land squarely on the platform. Chasing Haze's foot slipped, her body tilted, and she tumbled down. Chen Guo quickly fired her cannon mid-air, hoping to use the recoil to launch Chasing Haze back onto one of the platforms. But for someone of her skill level, pulling that off wouldn't be a matter of judgment or technique. It would be pure, dumb luck. Unfortunately, her luck wasn't in, and she missed. The cannon shot out. Chasing Haze did manage to land on a few platforms, but she couldn't get a stable footing. She bounced around and finally toppled straight backward, landing flat on her back at the very bottom. Chen Guo was absolutely livid. When everyone's competing, getting blasted by a move like that is just part of the game's rules. But as for the guy down there, everyone could already tell his skills weren't up to par. He had almost no chance of completing this game. You could say he'd already dropped out of the competition long ago. But this guy was just being a sore loser. He couldn't make the jump himself, so he decided to ruin it for everyone else. That's just poor sportsmanship. Chasing Haze rolled to her feet and immediately leveled her heavy machine gun, unleashing a torrent of fire at the sharpshooter in midair. The sharpshooter, however, seemed delighted, as if he'd found a new toy, and gleefully began to trade blows with Chen Guo. This high jump competition had its two audience participants suddenly switch to a flat ground PK, marking the first time such a thing had happened since the event was invented. The audience was stunned at first, but then they remembered the incredible skill Chasing Haze had shown in that video. This was going to be a great show. Once someone took the lead, the entire crowd broke into a round of applause. The sharpshooter had completely misinterpreted the applause, thinking it was for him after taking down an opponent. This had him over the moon, and he fought with even more gusto. Once the ground-level exchange began, the sharpshooter's skill proved far better than his jumping technique. After a volley of shots, Chen Guo realized she couldn't take him down with any certainty. The audience watched for a while, but they didn't see the level of skill they were expecting from Chasing Haze. They were all left bewildered. The thing is, Chasing Haze was being piloted that day. A lot of people actually knew about it, like all the players from the 10th server who'd followed the match live. They all knew Lord Grimm was the one behind the controls, but that information never really spread beyond that circle. So most people who watched the video had no idea. Down on the ground, the two were locked in a heated fight. High above, the four pro players were trading blows in a fierce back and forth, and right in the middle, the two audience players, one kept climbing, focused and undeterred, while the other, Tang Ru's character, had already stopped. Seeing Chen Guo fighting this person to a standstill, she didn't hesitate for a second. she stepped right off the platform and dropped straight down. The crowd gasped in shock, but Tang Ru was utterly composed. Jumping around like this was one thing, but when it came to pure PK, she had absolute faith in herself. The sharpshooter was still trading fire with Chen Guo's chasing haze, completely unaware of the disaster descending from above. Tang Ru, plummeting down, thrust her spear mid-air. The guy was too focused on his shooting to anticipate the attack, and the spear hit him, sending him stumbling. Tang Ru's character plummeted to the ground without taking any measures to break her fall. The height was simply too great, and she lost half her health in an instant. Chasing Haze, however, had been using her cannon to bounce around mid-air. While she never landed cleanly, she managed to dissipate all the impact damage from the high-altitude fall. In the end, she touched down completely unscathed. The sharpshooter player staggered and swung his view back around, just in time to see Tang Ru's character take a nasty fall and lose half her HP. He knew a newbie when he saw one. Remembering the beauty behind the character, he called out with a smooth, teasing tone.
Did that hurt, beautiful? Need a hand getting up?
The second day's event was more about participation, and unlike a formal competition, voice chat wasn't banned. Players were free to talk and coordinate. When a character falls from a great height, they don't just lose HP. Depending on the distance, they'll also be inflicted with a stun status. This was a detail Tang Ru wasn't aware of, and no one had told her about it. She was ready to strike, but found herself locked in a stun, completely unable to move. It was the perfect opening for a counterattack. Yet, instead of seizing the chance, that player just stood there, spouting a bunch of slick, flirtatious nonsense. The moment he finished speaking, the stun wore off. Tang Ru instantly commanded her character forward with a dragon tooth. The battle mage's skills were all maxed out, but Tang Ru had only personally used those below level 40. The higher level ones were still unfamiliar to her, and she didn't know how to use them. When she allocated her skill points earlier, she maxed out all the skills she had ever used. As for the leftover points, she just threw them around haphazardly. In this fight, Tang Ru was deadly serious. She didn't even think about testing out the high-level skills she hadn't used before, sticking only to the ones she knew well. In terms of PK combat, Tang Ru was already far above the average player. The sharpshooter was immediately beaten to a pulp by her, with no mood left to flirt with a pretty girl. Meanwhile, Chen Guo's chasing haze charged over without a hint of mercy, joining Tang Ru for a 2-on-1 beatdown. The poor guy was in dire straits. Something like this hadn't happened in years of events, leaving even the commentator struggling to keep up. After a long pause, he finally managed to blurt out,
Unless I'm seeing things, those two lovely spectators just formed a party.
And it wasn't just the audience who was surprised. Even the pro players in the competitor seats were watching with rapt attention.
That battle mage player seems pretty good.
Someone commented while watching the match.
Her mechanics are fast.
A pro player could spot Tang Ru's greatest strength in an instant.
But it's still not mature enough. Why didn't you follow up with a Raging Dragon there?
Another person lamented. The Raging Dragon Heartpiercer was a high-level skill for a level 60 battle mage, but it wasn't yet part of Tang Ru's combat repertoire.